Alright, 2025 is already shaping up to be one of the biggest years in gaming, and that includes indie games. Now, I previously made a video of my most anticipated games coming this year, and I left a lot of indie games off of that list, because I did want to go through and make this separate video for you. Now, it's taken me a little while, I know, it's been a few weeks, but here's a list of 20 indie games coming this year, or at least that I think is coming this year. Then I have a few honorable mentions at the very end, so stick around to see what those are. Now, as a caveat for the entire video, games can change, developers can close, whatever may happen in the industry. Just know that most of these say that they're releasing in 2025, or we've seen enough of them to think that they will, or maybe I'm just hopeful and I wish they did release this year. So stick around and enjoy this list of games, and stick all the way through to the end if you want to see the honorable mentions, and let's go ahead and get into this thing. First up on the list, we have Replaced. Man, this game has been announced for a long time. I've been anticipating this game for about 4 years now. The account on Twitter now says it's coming in 2025, and they did do a recent gameplay showcase. So I do have high hopes that it actually will hit that time frame. Will it actually come out sometime later this year? Who knows? But it's a gorgeous game. It's got this 2D pixelated art style, but it's got cyberpunk tones to it, and now the concept for this game is not wholly original. There was a game coming out that was called The Last Night. We never heard anything about that again, but then this one kind of popped up, and it seemed to be everything that game should have been, and then some. So here's holding out hope that Replaced actually comes out later this year and we can enjoy it in all its glory. And next up on the list, we have Pioner, or is it Pioneer? I don't know, but either way, it looks fucking cool. Now, this is a pretty large team, but this is their first game that they've ever made before. It's a first-person action MMO kind of game. So it's giving me thoughts of Destiny to a degree, but it looks so much like the original Rage or early Borderlands games with a ton of Bioshock influence in there. Now, I don't really know how they're going to fit that in the world with an MMO type of vibe, but I'm hoping that they do something along the lines of maybe Remnant, but more open world. The graphics of this looks amazing. It looks like such a good mix of Rage, Metro, and Bioshock. All games that I love. Check out the trailer for it if you want to see more and get your hype up like I am. And the next one up is Mohrta. This one, also on Steam, has a release date of 2025. It's got a demo out that shows how insane the game can actually get. It's a bit of a boomer shooter style with that old school, really fast movement, shooting, slicing, but with some of the most insane environments and a compelling world that actually looks pretty unique to dive into. Some crazy characters and concepts that I'm looking forward to trying. Then on to Last Moon. This game came simply out of nowhere. Last Moon looks exactly like if you took Bastion and a 2D Zelda and mashed them together, and it looks fucking good. And it looks clean with its art style. It looks like it plays very well. It's got this kind of modern, very clean drawn aesthetic behind it, and I hope it pulls off everything that it attempts to show off here. One thing to know about this one as well is that it does have co-op, so pick it up with your friend or partner and go have a blast. Now, actually, as of me making this video, Tales of Iron 2 releases today. The first one was pretty well received across the board. I heard a few different things from friends that said it was a pretty damn good game. I never got the time to actually sit down and try it out, but once I saw the sequel coming, I was like, man, this is a game that I need to sit down and force myself to play. It's got such a unique art style with very thick outlines for their characters in this super dark and gritty world with some of the most insane creatures that I've seen. It's got some over-the-top action and side-scroll combat, but it also has some seemingly deep RPG elements. If you like the first one, I can bet you're gonna like this one. I will be trying it out, and I hope you do too. Next up, we have a game called White Knuckle. Now, this is one of the smallest games on this list. It does not have a release date. But with the size of the game, I'm thinking that it will come out later this year. It's a sort of speed climber where you're going through with these insanely precise movements to be able to jump around, and it's got some horror elements to it as well, where it tries to scare you in this dark environment that seems scary and surreal and just moody. Now, with super clean and precise movement and a gritty atmosphere, it's right up my alley, and I plan to check this one out, and I really do hope it's as good as it looks. On to some JRPG time. We have have Threads of Time. And I did not mean to make that pun. But so on this one, it doesn't have a release date either, but from what we've seen, there's a lot shown off here. It seems like it's insanely large in scope. It's got the Octopath Traveler art style where it's 2D mixed with 3D, ray tracing, but crazy amount of pixels on the screen, realistic water graphics. This art style is what I think Octopath Traveler should have been. Those games are gorgeous, but this one takes it up another level, and that's what I'm here for. We like a beautiful art style, and we love the graphics, but as long as the story holds up and the gameplay is good, that's what's going to make this one a winner. Next up, we have Dragonkin The Banished. Now, this is kind of a weird one that I actually just stumbled across on Steam one day. It releases in just a little over a month. It's a fun looter ARPG hack and slash fest. What's more to know about it? It gives me vibes of old school Champions of Norath back on PS2, which were games that I ate up. Those were my jam. I played them non-stop. I always re-rolled new characters. It had a little bit of jank to it, but it was fun. And it's giving me that vibe. If it can stick with it and it can nail that landing, then it will for sure end up in my backlog. On to what is probably the biggest project of them all, Vivarium. This game is completely hand-drawn from the ground up. It has a mixture of maybe 70s and 80s style cartoons and Ghibli movies, which we all know I love those. I do not even care what the gameplay style is going to be here. Art direction alone is winning me over on this one, and I can't wait to see when it's going to come out. This one has been announced for years, and I have no idea when it's set up to release, but I do really hope that it's for this year. Keep your eye on it because I know I am. Now, are you ready for something with a bit more action, maybe a bit more anime vibes? Yeah, how about that? We have Kernel Hearts. This looks like it took Nier Automata, mixed it with a dating simulator, and that's what we're here for. Everything about this is unique, whether it's the characters drawn beautifully, the men and the women. The gameplay looks smooth. It definitely looks like a smaller indie project, but it looks like it's done well, and there's a lot of love being put into this. Open world adventure, action, you know, it's got it all. Kernel Hearts has my heart, and I hope it grabs yours as well. Then onto another game that seemingly has a fully hand-drawn art style. That's going to be By Sweet Carole. This was also one that I just kind of randomly came across on Steam. Sometimes I'll go through the indie section or see new releases that are scheduled out, and this one stood out. It is just like a lot of old school Disney movies. That's what this game looks like. I don't know how it's going to play considering it looks so good. It actually looks like one of the most insanely animated Disney movies, but in the form of a game. And just like with a lot of games out there that are coming out in the near future, if you can get me with a very pleasing or very new and stylistic direction, you're going to be exactly what I'm looking for. This game sticks out more than almost any other game on this list, just in art direction alone, and this one also does have a release date stating that it's 2025 on Steam, so we'll see if they stick to it. Now, have you ever wanted a tower defense game, maybe top-down RTS style with a deck builder? Because that's what we have here with As We Descend. Now, I'm not super big on mashing together all these random elements of different games all the time, and sometimes I'm kind of getting a little bit tired of all these deck builders and roguelites and whatever else it may be. But this one's got a very premium feel to it. It looks like the developers are taking their time to make it right. They're not just throwing something out there. They've got something good on their hands, and this one seems to know what it's trying to pull off, and it's trying to do it well. It's got some new elements to it, but it's got some things that we've seen before, and it's kind of mashing them together in a way that I personally enjoy. So we'll see as it gets closer to launching. This one does have a TBD on it, so it's not stated to come out this year, but there is a demo on Steam and it looks pretty fucking polished from what I've seen. So go grab that demo, check it out for yourself, and we'll move on to the next one, which is Tenjutsu. You ever wanted to play Hotline Miami and Sifu at the same time with a little bit of roguelike elements? Well, this game's for you, baby. Tenjutsu is a top-down, very much like Hades style game, but much more pixelated, much more gritty like Sifu with its melee combat, but it almost seems to have some stylistic nature related to Hotline Miami. Now, all of those games mashed together sounds pretty fucking rad in my book. Now we just gotta wait to see if it pulls it off. The cutscenes look like they're animated well, and the game itself doesn't necessarily look the prettiest across the board, but hey, you give me something a little different and unlike everything else I've ever seen, and you don't have to be the prettiest. You just gotta be good. And moving on from good to gold, we have Eternal Life of Goldman Sachs. Yeah, what a weird name. But this one, just like some of the previous ones, and I think it's probably one of the last ones on the list, if I recall, is hand-drawn. We are living in a beautiful age of hand-drawn games. We're getting things in the vein of Cuphead, but yet they play and look like Hollow Knight? What? This game almost looks unreal. You take a look at it and you're like, there's no way this exists. They're not making this game. But they are, and it's pretty far along. This is also another one that does not have a release date, but based upon everything I've seen, I'm pretty sure it's coming out this year, if not very early next year. And I know, I'm very sorry that a lot of these games don't have release dates for this year, but we gotta keep the hype going, right? Now, I'm gonna take you on a bit of a journey on this next one. And by that I mean it's Sword of the Sea, which is a funny joke on this because it looks so much like Journey, but yet so much different at the same time. Now, Giant Squid is the developer of this. They did make Abzu and The Pathless, which are both games that I enjoyed way more than I thought I would. I picked up The Pathless early into my PS5 life cycle just a few years ago, and I could not put that game down. I still remember it vividly to today. I tell anybody who wants to just play a good game, go pick up The Pathless. And Abzu's an underwater vibe too. This one seems to be taking a lot of stuff from Journey, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. We'll see how it turns out. Let's hope it's just as good as their previous games, and that it also comes out later this year. Next up is a game about Tears and Metal. Tears of Metal is a game that I have previously talked about, so I am very sorry. But Tears of Metal is shit, and you're gonna whip out that sword, and you're gonna go around, and you're gonna slice some fucking heads off, okay? Because that's what this game is about. It seems like a Musou game, but with some roguelike elements behind it, and it's all about just fucking killing everybody in your way. It looks so fun. And sometimes that's what games need to be. They just need to be fun. And again, unique art style. You don't have to be insanely amazing, but if you have good art style, you look like you're a lot of fun, and you're gonna at least get me to buy you. Whether or not I stick around and play it for a long time is another story, but I'll at least put a few hours into it, just to check it out and see what you're worth. Now, a game that got announced a long time ago is Skate Story. Skate Story was announced almost 3 years ago, and it's probably one of the most surreal looking games I've ever seen in my entire life. It's hard to even describe sometimes. You're like this character made of glass skating around this vibrant, fucked up looking world that is also just as crazy looking as you are. I used to love playing skating games. I love adventure games. I love surreal and over-the-top experiences. And that's what Skate Story is. So I'm ready to skate, and I'm ready to experience a story. And I hope you are too. And now on to the fishing game, The Big Catch. Alright, we're done with that accent. So, The Big Catch, as you can see from the video on screen and from me talking about it in the past, it takes you back to the roots of the Nintendo 64 or early PS1 games of platforming adventure games, with an old school retro 64-bit art style, but yet cleaned up and looks great. Super big open world, there's a demo out there for you to try out, a mascot character that looks so wholly unique compared to almost anything we've seen in a very long time. This is a game that has been on my radar since they announced it, and I will be playing this game day one. This is going to be one of the biggest games when it launches, and I cannot wait. Then, as we go from one open world game to another, we're going with Demon Tides. Similar boat, it's about a lot of movement, it's kind of mimicking the Nintendo 64 or Banjo-Kazooie style games, but yet it's got an art direction that is almost similar to like Dragon Quest. The characters are very goofy and zany looking, it's got a lot of movement behind it, and it's got a very stylized art direction. It's got some spray painting mechanics that reminds me of Jet Set Radio or Jet Grind Radio, depending on who or where you are. The recent Bomb Rush Cyberpunk made me love that game over again. And seeing some of the stuff in this game where you can customize your character, go around spray painting some stuff, and just have a blast adventuring, I'm here for it. I'm here to see if it holds up. I'm hoping that it does, but in the meantime, I've got this last game here which looks like the most over-the-top, insane blast of a fucking time. Now, number 20 on this list is a game called Showa American Story. Which, to give you a brief synopsis, looking at the video and everything that you're seeing currently, it looks like what people in Japan in the 70s thought Texas would look like in 2025. And they're not wrong, it does look like this. No, but Showa American Story looks absolutely bonkers. But I'm here for every second of everything on this screen. Are you seeing what's going on right here? Like, tell me you don't see this and just want to play this game nonstop. It looks a bit janky, it looks a bit fucked up, but it looks so unique and so cool and so fun. It's got damage numbers jumping across the screen, you're slicing dudes up, jumping around, some crazy characters, and insanely big open world that you can travel across and just have a fun time. It definitely gives me some open world No More Heroes vibes, and I need more games like that in my life. Games that almost seemingly want to take themselves as being serious and look like they try to be serious but are genuinely just being stupid fun. The Yakuza series does a really good job at that, and I hope this one pulls off something similar. Alright, that's it for the 20 games here. Now to talk about a few of the honorable mentions that I have at the end. Now I've got Pyrofauna, I'm not sure how to say it. Looks like a very cute little indie game. Again, art style gets me. A little fire, catching things on fire while you adventure around. It looks cute, looks fun. Then we have Altered Alma, which looks like a very tight, very precise Mega Man or Metroidvania type of game. It looks hella good, so I hope it turns out to be just as good as it looks here. Next up in honorable mentions is Karn. I've talked about this one before. I'm going to show a couple snippets here, of course, of it, but it looks like a mixture of Jusant and Death Stranding put together, and who doesn't want that? Climb a mountain while destroying my feet and trying to survive? Give me more, please. Thank you. Then a game that I have literally nothing to compare to. It's called Herdling. You have a herd of like goat, buffalo, cow monsters that you travel around with? And why am I so intrigued by this? It looks like a cozy vibe. I'm here for it. Take me on an adventure. And as you can tell from this list, anything but some good solid movement is going to get my attention. So next up is the Nightling. You can literally just slide around on your shield like it's Zelda Breath of the Wild. And that's most of the game. You're just running around in the open world, beating guys up with your shield and then sliding around on it some more. Give me fun movement and good gameplay in an open world. You got my attention. Then the last game that I think is coming out this year is Alabaster Dawn. This game is from the people that made Crosscode, which was an insanely good game. The animation, art style, and combat are just super polished at this point. This studio knows what they're doing. They know how to build a world. They know how to make an intriguing game and have some good story elements behind it too. Alabaster Dawn is taking everything that they have learned from Crosscode and it's just enhancing it across the board. From art style to direction to music to story to everything. This one is actually probably going to be a day one buy for me. It's on the honorable mentions because, you know, I got to give you some good stuff at the end. And that's going to be it for the games coming out, but I have one last thing actually. And it's sad news, because as I was making this video, I had one game on my list that isn't coming out anymore, and that's Earthblade. Now apparently, about 5 days ago, the creators of Celeste announced that they will no longer be working on Earthblade and it will not be continued development, and it will not be released at all. Apparently some stuff went down with the developer, and they realized that they were just not going to make this game anymore, which is a big letdown, because Celeste is one of my favorite games of all time. As we always do in the gaming industry, we look forward to the ones that do come out and we stay hopeful for the ones that never did. But that's going to be it for this video. Hope you enjoyed all these games that I talked about today. I know, it's a pretty long video, but if you made it to the end here, please like, subscribe, all that fun YouTube stuff. And as always, I'll see you next time.